Wei Hao was a martial arts fanatic, but to his misfortune, his ordinary talents in the field made it impossible for him to practice most of martial arts techniques. This was a problem which even the Duke of Wei was helpless before. As such, Wei Hao held an intent craving for power. Wang Chong giving him a martial arts manual was completely out of Wei Hao's expectations. One must know that in this era of martial arts, other than those commonplace martial arts techniques which were publicly known, all martial arts manuals were worth a ton. No power would easily impart their secret arts to an outsider. Thus, Wei Hao was honestly surprised by this matter. Flipping through the pages, Wei Hao was initially browsing through it casually, but it didn't take long for him to be absorbed into it. Even though he hadn't tried cultivating it yet, Wei Hao sensed that the technique which Wang Chong had given him was much stronger than the one he was cultivating. Seeing Wei Hao slowly getting engrossed into it such that his breathing grew faint, Wang Chong nodded his head with a smile. Wang Chong had always felt guilt toward Wei Hao. Wei Hao had always regarded him as his best buddy, but due to several misunderstandings, Wang Chong fell out with him, losing this precious friend of his. Even so, Wei Hao didn't give up on him. During his hardest times in his previous life, he chose to help Wang Chong despite the disapproval of his clan. The Wang Chong back then couldn't be of assistance to Wei Hao at all. He could only watch as Wei Hao was swept away by the catastrophe like the many others. Thus, upon given a chance to do it all over, Wang Chong wanted to do something for him. Martial arts has always been Wei Hao's weakness. His ordinary talents had limited his growth, and this wasn't something the Duke of Wei could solve despite his power and wealth. Thus, even at his very last breath, Wei Hao had never grew strong. Wang Chong had always wanted to give him a hand on that, but it was difficult to find a suitable cultivation technique for him. After spending a long time recalling all of the cultivation technique in his head, he finally found one which was the most suitable for Wei Hao. This was also the reason why Wang Chong took so long to pass this on to Wei Hao. Time slowly ticked by and Wei Hao's attention was completely into the manual. Wang Chong didn't interrupt him and sat quietly in the carriage. After a period of time, Wei Hao exhaled a huge breath and finally lifted his gaze from the book. Mountain Ascension Formula? Such a weird name. Why haven't I heard of it in the past? Wang Chong, where did you obtain such a powerful martial arts manual from? Wei Hao stared at Wang Chong in shock, as though he had become a complete stranger. For some reason, from the moment Wei Hao started flipping through the manual, he felt extremely fond of the cultivation technique. It was as though a mysterious energy was tugging on him, prompting him to read on. Thus, only when he finished reading through the entire manual did he finally turn his gaze away from it and exhale deeply. Wei Hao didn't know where Wang Chong got this cultivation technique from, and with a single look, it felt wild, completely different from the other martial arts of the Wang clan. But for some reason, Wei Hao liked it a lot. While flipping through the manual, he had a feeling that it was tailored for him, and this made him feel extremely excited. Why, you don't like it? Return it to me then. With an impassive face, Wang Chong stretched out his hand as he said, "Scram! Since you've given it to me, it's mine now. You stinky brat, don't even think about getting it back." Wei Hao held the Mountain Ascension formula tightly in his embrace, as though saying that Wang Chong would have to get past him before getting back his manual. Ha ha ha! Wang Chong retracted his right hand and burst into laughter. Seeing Wang Chong laugh, Wei Hao couldn't help but chuckle as well. The two brothers seemed to have gone back to the times when they were extremely close to one another, and the slight estrangement in their relationship that arose from Ma Zhou's incident vanished completely. Stinky brat, this Mountain Ascension formula shall be my reward for the effort I have put in for the past few days. So don't even dream about getting this back. Right? If you have any more of such stuff in the future, make sure to tell me. Dream on. Wang Chong reprimanded him with a smile. Wang Chong wasn't surprised that Wei Hao would become so fond of this cultivation technique. This cultivation technique was created for people with average talents like Wei Hao. As everyone knew, rather than geniuses, ordinary humans with ordinary talents were the most populous in the world. Even though they were destined to achieve little, there were always exceptions to the rule. Regardless of what it was, there was always hope. Mountain Ascension formula was such a hope. This cultivation technique didn't demand much of one's talents, but one had to put in 10 times or even 100 times the effort to make up for it. As the saying goes, the dumb bird learns to fly first. If one's talent couldn't match up with the others, one had to put in much more effort than them. This was the concept behind the mountain ascension formula. There was no limit to this cultivation technique. From origin energy tier to true martial tier, then to profound martial tier, and on to emperor martial tier, one could continue cultivating this cultivation technique upward, but one would have to put in much more hard work than the others. The further one advanced, the more hard work one had to put in, sometimes even up to 1,000 times more. For this cultivation technique, hard work was probably the only limit. Even so, Wang Chong didn't have too great of an impression of this cultivation technique. In fact, he nearly failed to recall its existence. That was because even though this cultivation technique had mystical effects, it wasn't compatible with Wang Chong. Everyone had a cultivation technique that was compatible with them. This cultivation technique may be formidable for Wei Hao, but to Wang Chong it couldn't even compare up to an ordinary cultivation technique. Furthermore, no one had been able to complete this cultivation technique in his previous life. The reason was simple: lack of time. One needed a huge amount of time to practice this cultivation technique. Furthermore, there were less diligent people than geniuses in the world. It's sufficient that you know of this. Don't talk about this cultivation technique to anyone else, including your father. Wang Chong instructed. Don't worry, I understand. After I become stronger, I will teach that brat Wei Zhe a lesson. Wei Hao spoke indignantly. Hearing Wei Hao speaking of his cousin, Wang Chong could only chuckle. Even though Wang Chong didn't find the possibility likely, he didn't say anything about it. Everyone was fated to meet a nemesis in their life. Wei Hao's nemesis was his cousin, Wei Zhe. In the younger generation of the Wei clan, Wei Zhe was indisputably a genius. Even though he was younger than Wei Hao, his cultivation far surpassed his. Perhaps he was angry that his father's official position was lower than that of Wei Hao's father. Or maybe, he wished to vent his father's frustration on Wei Hao in his place. Every time he came to the Wei residence, he would target Wei Hao and look for reasons to beat him up. This made Wei Hao's father, the Duke of Wei, extremely angry. Furthermore, Wei Hao didn't inherit the Duke of Wei's strength, possessing only ordinary talent. Thus, Wei Hao's plight actually wasn't any easy as he usually behaved. This was also one of the reasons why Wang Chong gave Wei Hao the mountain ascension formula. Putting this aside, I have something I need to trouble you on. Diving straight into the topic, Wang Chong opened the wooden crate in the carriage and 17,000 gold taels immediately appeared before their sights. Here is 17,000 gold taels. Take it and help me gather some rations such as cow, goat, pig, banana, sorghum, millet. It is fine as long as it is edible. You sold the sword out? Wei Hao's eyes widened. The previous 37,000 gold taels had been passed to the two Cindy monks, so this additional 17,000 gold taels must have come from the sales of the sword. I sold it for 35,000 gold taels. Only half of the sum is here. Wang Chong nodded his head, not hiding anything from Wei Hao. Don't worry. This isn't a difficult matter to attend to as long as there is money. Leave it to me, Wei Hao said. Wei Hao didn't possess absolute say in the Wei clan. Even so, as long as the money came from him, and it was just simple and profitable trade, the Wei clan wouldn't obstruct him. Also, I need your help on something. Wang Chong whispered his thought. Hearing his words, Wei Hao nodded his head and said, No problems. Leave this to me as well. After instructing everything required, Wang Chong hopped off the carriage, leaving it to Wei Hao for him to transport the gold and return to his own residence. His little sister was currently having the time of her life. After obtaining the huge sum of a few hundred gold taels from Wang Chong, she became a tycoon. Thus, she has been spending her days following behind cousin Wang Zhuyan, and sometimes, she didn't even return home. Given the strict house rules of the Wang clan, such actions were usually forbidden. However, since she was with cousin Wang Zhuyan, mother would allow the matter slip as long as the latter sent a note over. After arranging the matter with the Cindy monks, Wang Chong was completely free for the next few days. He would wake up in the middle of the night to cultivate his dragon bone art and Herculean fist. During the day, he would head to the Ghost Tree District and make a move with his black stone, dueling it out with the ex-god of war Su Jingqin, who was still hiding in the shadows. The days went by peacefully and orderly. Come, let's toast to young Master Su. I don't concede to anyone, but young Master Su is an exception. Young Master Su has always been the person that I respect the most. Zhang Wei, I agree with you. Come, young Master Su, let me propose this toast to you. You have always been a person which I respect the most. In the capital, who hasn't heard of young Master Su's name? Indeed, given the authority the Duke of Su possesses, who would dare to offend you? Even the Yao clan and Wang clan would have to tread carefully around you. In the Eight Gods Pavilion, wine cups knocked against one another. A large group of people was gathered around Su Bai and they were busy fawning over him. Su Bai, lying horizontally on his chair, raised his wine cup and accepted their praises readily. These scions gathered around him were of the most influential bunch in the capital. But honestly speaking, Su Bai didn't think highly of them. Su Bai knew that they were fawning over him, but there was something that they were right about. That was, his father, the Duke of Su, Su Fuwei, was one of the most influential people in the Great Tang capital. Even existences like the Yao clan and Wang clan couldn't disregard his father's existence. Right, young Master Su, why would you suddenly call all of us over to treat us? The group of scions put down their wine cups and asked curiously. Su Bai wasn't a stingy person, but he wasn't a generous one either. Even his acquaintances found it hard to meet him in the Eight Gods Pavilion and have him treat them to a meal. Given how they were completely unrelated to him, the entire matter was probably out of question. Yet, he took the initiative to invite everyone to the Eight Gods Pavilion to treat them to a meal. This has caught many of them off guard. As the saying goes, the dumb bird learns to fly first. Meaning, due to lack of talent, they would try their hand at something before anyone else could so that they could catch up with the others. Humph! Hearing those words, Su Bai harumphed coldly. All of a sudden, his expression turned cold and the atmosphere stiffened. No one expected Su Bai's mood to change as quickly as the weather. Everyone's heart froze, and they swiftly shut their mouths in fear. The Duke of Su held immense power in the empire. Even though the rest of them were from prestigious clans as well, their standing was far from matching up to Su Bai's. Thus, upon seeing Su Bai's mood sour, they didn't dare to speak. Humph! I didn't expect all of you to forget that matter. Looks like you all need me to remind you about it. Have you all forgotten that we still have more than 1,000 tales with Wang Chong? How can you all forget such an important matter? Su Bai's expression was cold. In an instant, everyone immediately understood why Su Bai was suddenly acting out of character. Those who weren't close with Su Bai immediately felt immense regret. They truly shouldn't have made this trip to the Eight Gods Pavilion. He was clearly making use of them to deal with the Wang clan. This was a political battle among the Wang clan, Su clan, and Yao clan. They couldn't afford to get involved in such a fight. If they were to get involved in the battle among the empire's top clans, it was likely that they would be destroyed in an instant. Young Master Su, I feel a little... It's only natural for one to repay one's debt. Back then, we loaned money to Wang Chong together, so today we shall claim it from him together as well. I will take anyone who refuses to go as trampling on my dignity. So, if anything happens to your family, such as your elders, relatives, or father being demoted or removed from their positions, don't blame me for not warning you in advance. Before those scions could make up an excuse to leave, Su Bai had already cut off their path of retreat. His cold gaze swept across the surrounding crowd, and the menacing threat in his eyes was clear. Those scions who had wanted to back off from the matter immediately shuddered and sat back down. Given the Duke of Su's influence, it was perfectly possible for him to accomplish such task. Young Master Su, there is something you don't know about Wang Chong. There is a swordsmith whose sword was priced at 40,000 gold taels in Bluebottle Pavilion, and I heard that he's called Wang Chong as well. Amidst the crowd, a scion suddenly spoke hesitantly. 40,000 gold taels? Su Bai was taken aback. Yes, young Master Su. Do you think that it is possible for... Humph, are you all fools? It's just a similar name. How could it be possible for that swordsmith to be the same Wang Chong we know? Su Bai sneered. He would never believe that Wang Chong would have such capability. What a joke. If Wang Chong was that capable, how could he be toyed around by a thug like Ma Zhou so easily? If Wang Chong was so capable and it was his sword that was worth 40,000 gold taels, would he need to borrow money from the rest of them? How did these fellows come up with such ridiculous thoughts? With Su Bai pointing the matter out, the crowd also felt that the notion of it was ridiculous. If Wang Chong was that rich, there was no need for him to borrow money from them. At this moment, which one of them wasn't depending on their clans for a living? Putting aside earning 40,000 gold taels, even earning 100 gold taels was an impossible task for most of them. It was inconceivable to them that Wang Chong could possess such immense ability. Right, I suddenly recalled something. The Wang Chong at the Bluebottle Pavilion was said to be around 17 to 18-year-old, making him much older than the other Wang Chong. Young Master Su is right, those two just happened to have identical names. Another lanky scion recalled the rumor he heard and spoke up. Indeed, I also remember hearing that. The swordsmith is indeed 17 to 18-year-old. Since that's the case, it is impossible for him to be that Wang Chong. I also heard the same news from my clan. Same here. Me too. Upon hearing those words, everyone immediately recalled the matter and started speaking up. This time, everyone finally calmed down. Even the scion who had brought up the possibility of two Wang Chongs being the same person felt embarrassed. Given the difference in age, it was clear that they were two different individuals. He had focused too much of their identical names and neglected this detail. Hearing those words, Su Bai harumphed. Initially, he was feeling slightly unnerved by that possibility, but after hearing the details, his unease vanished. Later on, bring your debt notes along. We will march off to the Wang clan to demand Wang Chong to return our money. It is only natural that he should return our money. If anything happens, I will shoulder the burden. We shall make a killing together, and I guarantee you all here that nothing bad will happen. Su Bai patted his chest confidently as he smiled coldly. Hong! This time, everyone cheered loudly in response. Glancing around, Su Bai smiled gleefully. Write a letter on this matter and deliver it to the Yao residence. Make sure it reaches the hands of Yao Gongzi. Su Bai beckoned Gao Fei over and whispered in his ears. Yes, Gongzi. Kneeling on the floor, Gao Fei listened obediently to Su Bai's words before turning around to leave. Watching as Gao Fei disappeared into the distance, the corner of Su Bai's lips slowly curled up. He heard that Yao Feng was currently grounded in his residence and the entire Yao clan was trying to stay out of trouble. At such a timing, this would prove as a valuable gift to them. He wondered how the Wang clan would react when they realized that Wang Chong owed a huge debt outside. Upon thinking of this, Su Bai couldn't help but burst into laughter. A show was about to start. Who? In the courtyard, Wang Chong exhaled a deep breath and calmed his cultivation. A surge of warm energy flowed into his bones. After the last few days of cultivation, Wang Chong could sense that the strength he wielded has increased significantly, and the progress of the dragon bone art was going smoothly as well. His root bone was also gradually advancing from Panther Bone 1 Dan to Panther Bone 2 Dan. Even though the change seemed to be insignificant to Wang Chong, it meant that he was able to utilize more of the incredible martial arts in his arsenal. I should be able to succeed in a few days' time, Wang Chong thought. Focusing all of his efforts in his martial arts, he wasn't just training at night now. He extended his training to the day, and his cultivation was rising at a much faster pace than before. After ending his cultivation, Wang Chong greeted his mother and just as before, he left his residence. But this time he could sense that something was amiss. Wang Chong is here, Wang Chong is here. Suddenly, a loud shout could be heard. Before Wang Chong could react, a figure leaped down from the tree in the distance. Then, the seemingly ordinary street seemed to burst into commotion. Carriages appeared from all directions, and every single of them was heading for the Wang family residence. Block him. Don't allow him to escape. Wang Chong, where do you think you are going? Wang Chong, you should repay the money you owe us. Do you think that you can shirk it off? The street suddenly burst into action. Initially, Wang Chong thought that he was under attack and he immediately put up his guard. But upon hearing their words, he burst into laughter. He immediately understood what was going on. Gongzi, what is going on? We'll call for some backup from the residents. Shenhai and Menglong appeared by Wang Chong's side immediately. They stared warily at the carriages charging toward the entrance, as though facing hordes of enemies. There's no need for it. I can deal with this myself. Wang Chong shook his hands. Walala. As he spoke, the doors to the carriage suddenly opened. A large group of people leapt down the carriages, surrounding Wang Chong, blocking him from all directions. Wang Gongzi, young Master Wang. A month has passed. Surely you haven't forgotten about your debt. From afar, a cold voice echoed from a massive green carriage. Su Bai He, you bastard. I knew that it is your doing. Wang Chong turned around and sneered coldly at the massive green carriage. Having gathered this huge crowd here, it was clear that Su Bai was here to wreak havoc. There was no need for Wang Chong to be polite to him. Heh, Wang Gongzi, you can't put it like that. I am only here to claim my money. Why do you make it sound as though I'm intentionally causing you trouble here? The doors to the green carriage opened, and dressed in a green silk robe with cloud embroidery and a violet coronet, he stepped out. Right, of course you would know that I'm here for the debt. However, I wonder if you know that I have filed this debt note in the Court of Judicial Review. Su Bai whipped out a paper from his sleeves and holding it up, he gleefully smiled. As he spoke, two figures alighted from the green carriage and stood by Su Bai's side. Bastard! Seeing the duo, Wang Chong's complexion immediately darkened. Wang Chong knew that Su Bai would make use of this debt note to create a huge ruckus. He wasn't afraid of the latter coming to his doorstep to demand money, just that he didn't think that he would involve the officials from the Court of Judicial Review in the matter. These two austere and stony-faced officials were aides of the Court of Judicial Review. Furthermore, Su Bai chose the two most conservative, strict, and unlikable members there. Usually, these two would only appear when someone violates their contract, and their appearance rarely means anything good. Since Su Bai called them along, he was clearly trying to blow the matter up. Looking at Wang Chong's awful complexion, Su Bai laughed gleefully. If Wang Chong thought that he would only pursue him for his debt, he was truly underestimating him. How could the son of the Duke of Su be so useless? To corner Wang Chong, he brought two of the most impartial officials of the Court of Judicial Review over. Right now, he was going to introduce Wang Chong to the world of politics. Wang Gongzi, if I'm not mistaken, this note should be written by you. Su Gongzi said that you owe them all 1,700 gold taels. Is that true? The Court of Judicial Review aide standing by Su Bai's left asked. This was an extremely stern-looking elder. He wasn't tall, his hair was white, and his face was as stiff as a piece of stone. When he spoke, other than his wrinkled mouth, no other part of his body moved. He felt as though a standing corpse, and the sight of him induced fear in others. You should know about the laws of the royal court. If the emperor violates the law, he will be judged just like any other commoner. Even if you are the descendant of Duke Jiu, you can't escape the law. The other elder, who was as emaciated as a dried corpse as well, said impassively. After which, countless eyes from the surroundings shot to Wang Chong, curious to see what would happen. The two officials here, this doesn't seem to be appropriate? Ignoring Su Bai, Wang Chong glanced at the two officials. The Court of Judicial Review should only interfere in a matter when the other party is proven to be unable or unwilling to fulfill the contract. However, the contract isn't even carried out yet. So aren't your arrivals a little too early? Su Bai meant nothing to him, but the two officials were potential problems. Wang Chong had to drive them away first. The two elders are officials, but they are the aides of some other officials in the Court of Judicial Review. Even though it doesn't align with the rules, what Su Bai said made sense. 1,700 gold taels isn't a small sum, and given your capability, there is a high possibility that you aren't able to repay them. If the Court of Judicial Review finds it highly possible for one to break the contract, we can interfere in the matter. There are similar exceptions in history as well. The lips of the two corpse-like aides of the Court of Judicial Review moved. But don't worry. As long as you are able to fulfill the contract between Su Gongzi and the others, the Court of Judicial Review won't do anything. For the great Tang dynasty to prosper, honesty and credibility stood at the very core of its principles. Only with these could a society grow affluent. This is the very aspect of it that attracted traders from all over the world to Great Tang, be it the Karak Spazinu, the Abbasid Caliphate, Silla, or the Turkic Khaganate. Thus, the Court of Judicial Review punishes those who break contracts severely. Even though Su Bai was the one who invited the duo here, they would leave immediately if Wang Chong fulfills the contract. Wang Chong, what are you afraid of? Do you wish to break the contract? The debt note written in the Eight Gods Pavilion is clear. Do you intend to shirk from it? Su Bai stood forward and sneered eerily. Wang Chong thought that he would be here just to demand money. But how could that be possible? Today, he came with the purpose of humiliating the Wang clan. Su Bai, I'll give you one last chance, so consider it carefully. Business is one thing, but are you sure you want to side with the Yao clan to deal with our Wang clan? Wang Chong sneered coldly. Wang Chong knew that Su Bai has an intimate relationship with Yao Feng, but private relationship and official relationship were two different matters. At this point, it was clear that Su Bai was trying to blow the matter up. This was no longer a private grudge between the two of them. Hee. Su Bai sneered coldly. Unwilling to waste a single word on Wang Chong, he glanced at the others, and understanding the intention behind his gaze, the crowd by the side immediately roared, Wang Chong, return our money, return our money, return our money. The voice echoed like waves, and each wave was louder than the previous. Humph! Looking at the formation before him, Wang Chong sneered coldly. If he had truly squandered that money on frolicking, he would be in a dire situation today. However, Su Bai would have never expected that Wang Chong would use their money to build a wealth for himself. He obtained the rights to distribute the Hyderabad ore, and the current Wang Chong was nothing short of the word loaded. 1,700 gold taels, along with an interest of 1,000 taels, to him, was just spare change. Shanghai, come here. Wang Chong beckoned Shanghai. Bring the box beneath my bed here. There was a total 5,000 gold taels in the box. His uncle, knowing that Wang Chong had passed all of his money to Wei Hao, specially sent this sum here. Stored in a wooden box, no one could tell that such a huge sum laid within. If Su Bai thought that he could stump Wang Chong with mere 2,700 gold taels, he underestimating him. Yes, I will bring it over now, Shanghai answered. Before leaving, he glanced at Su Bai and smiled contemptuously. Even though a huge ruckus was going on before the gates, he thought of it as a mere farce. After the days of accompanying young Master Chong, Shanghai and Menglong knew that he had many secrets. The both of them have seen tens of thousands of gold taels being loaded on Wang Chong's carriage several times now. Yet, Su Bai was causing a ruckus at the door of the Wang family residence for a mere few thousand gold taels. To him, this felt like nothing but a small bicker. Young Master Chong, there's no need to be polite with these people, Shanghai said before leaving. Wang Chong only smiled in response. Waving him away, Shanghai immediately rushed into the residence. What's going on? Who are you all? A few breaths after Shanghai's departure, a perplexed voice echoed from the back. Then, a beautiful middle-aged lady walked toward the gate with a group of maids and nannies trailing behind. Mother! Upon seeing this sight, Wang Chong's complexion turned awful. He intended to resolve this matter silently, but his mother still ended up being alarmed. Madame Wang was resting in the residence when she heard the commotion outside. Confused by the buzz, she came out to take a look. Su Gongzi! Upon seeing Su Bai, Madame Wang was stunned. She recognized Su Bai as she had seen the latter standing beside Madame Su in the palace before. Why are you here? Madame Wang was astonished. Hee, Madame Wang, you came at a timely moment. Your son owes us 1,700 gold taels, and this is all recorded clearly on a contract. I'm not slandering anyone here. Su Bai shook a note in his hand as he smiled treacherously. Right? Just a side note. There is a 2% daily interest on the sum. What? Hearing Su Bai's words, Madame Wang felt her vision go dark. As though struck by lightning, her body swayed and she nearly fell to the ground. Madame Wang didn't expect Wang Chong to borrow a sum of 1,000 gold taels outside behind her back, even offering a 2% daily interest on it. This was something unthinkable for Madame Wang. The Wang family couldn't shoulder such a debt. Hee hee. Upon seeing this sight, Su Bai laughed gleefully. The thing that he had been expecting was finally happening. Nearly no one of the Wang clan knew about Wang Chong's act of borrowing money in the Eight Gods Pavilion. The reason why he gathered so many people here today to cause a huge ruckus was to blow this matter up, enlightening the Wang clan and everyone else of this matter. The size of the Wang family residence was proportionate to its expenses. Wang Yan's measly stipend was barely sufficient to support this large group of guards, nannies, and maids. At the very most, he would only be left with 100 gold taels at the end every month. 1,700 gold taels, in addition to the interest, meant a total of almost 3,000 taels. How could the Wang clan afford to pay such a huge debt? This is bad. Upon seeing his mother getting involved in this matter, Wang Chong's heart sank. He had intended to deal with this matter secretly without alarming his mother, but his efforts were futile. Chong-er, is what Su Gongzi said true? Madame Wang gritted her teeth and her face was steeled. From the looks of it, Wang Chong didn't just owe Su Bai money. With a single glance, she could see countless other scions from the other clans. It was hard to imagine how much money he owed altogether. He was being audacious. She had just barely sprouted some good impression of Wang Chong when his old habits kicked up again. Mother, listen to me. This matter isn't as you think it out to be. Wang Chong bucked up his courage to say. You just have to tell me whether Su Gongzi's words are true or not. Madame Wang stared at Wang Chong sternly. Yes. Wang Chong lowered his head. You. Infuriated, Madame Wang wagged her finger furiously toward Wang Chong, unable to say a single word. Madam, calm down. Madam, calm down. Seeing Madam flying into a rage, the nannies and maids immediately dashed forward to support her and massage her. At the same time, they hurriedly persuaded Wang Chong. Young master, don't speak anymore. Wang Chong was also thinking that this was bad. He didn't tell his mother about the matter at the Eight Gods Pavilion and the Hyderabad ores. The reason was simple. Wang Chong didn't wish to worry his mother. Knowing that he was taking such risk, it was unavoidable that her thoughts would wander. Furthermore, now that he was grown up, there were many things he could settle on his own. He didn't wish to stress his mother over such matters. Wang Chong didn't intend to hide these two matters from his mother, just that this timing seemed to be bad. Not too far away, Su Bai sneered coldly. This was what he hoped for. Wang Chong glared at him before turning to his mother. Even though the matter regarding the Eight Gods Pavilion had been exposed, Wang Chong didn't panic at all. Mother, the matter isn't as you thought. 1,700 gold taels may not be a huge sum, but it isn't a problem. I can solve it with my own means. Stop bragging. How can you solve the matter? The surrounding crowd burst into laughter. Their clans may be rich, but their allowance was only a few gold taels every month. Even at most, it only numbered up to a dozen taels or so. Thus, he didn't dare to borrow money as casually as Wang Chong did. Not to mention, the Wang clan didn't have any businesses and was in a worse situation than them. It would be a miracle if Wang Chong could repay the debt. Wang Chong couldn't be bothered with them. 1,700 gold taels, to the current him, posed as no trouble at all. Mother, listen to me. I didn't squander the money. I used it as an investment. Wang Chong said. Investment? What kind of investment? Madame Wang finally calmed down. Hearing his words, she asked. Ha ha ha. Even at a time like this, you still wish to lie to your mother? Su Bai burst into laughter. He had heard Wang Chong's words. What investment? To him, it sounded like a load of nonsense. What do you mean by lie? When did our young master have to lie to anyone? Isn't it just a mere 1,000 gold taels? Take it. At this moment, A bright voice revealing disdain echoed from within the gates. Pong! Before the person could be seen, a black shadow flew out first. Su Bai stepped aside and dodged the sudden attack. Turning around to look, the thing that was on the floor was a gold ingot. In an instant, Su Bai's expression darkened. Ha ha ha! Xianxia, you came at a good timing. Seeing Xianxia walking swiftly over from the gates, the frown between Wang Chong's eyebrows soothed and he laughed heartily. Talk was cheap, and this matter couldn't be resolved with just words. Money was the only solution. Young master, to deal with these fellows, you should smash gold into their faces. There's no need to talk crap with them. They are just a bunch of fools who claim a few gold taels from their clans every month. They aren't worthy of being spoken alongside our young master's name. Xianxia glanced at the crowd outside disdainfully. In his hands, the wooden box which weighs a few hundred jin seemed as light as an empty crate. You mere servant, what are you bragging about? A few gold taels, is it? Why don't you show it to us then? The prideful scions bellowed indignantly. They might not dare to talk about Su Bai's insults, and Wang Chong wasn't a person they could trifle with either. However, how could they allow a mere guard to look at them with such contempt? This was something these prideful scions couldn't accept. Humph! Xianxia harumphed contemptuously and allowed his actions to speak for him. Pong! Letting his hand loose, the wooden crate fell heavily onto the ground. The crate broke on the impact, and in the tightly sealed box, a large pile of shiny ingots appeared. They were all gold. Shwa! In an instant, everyone's breathing stopped. Even Madame Wang, standing up from the arms of the maids only to see a large pile of gold on the floor, was dumbfounded. It was as though time has stopped at the doorstep of the Wang family residence. This is impossible. Su Bai widened his eyes in shock. This was the only thought that was in his mind at this very instant. The Wang clan was an extremely strict family. Wang Chong only received a few silver taels every month. Based on Su Bai's calculations, it should be impossible for Wang Chong to produce so many gold taels. Yet, the fact laid itself before him. There were more than 1,000 gold taels here. Su Bai was stunned. Wang Chong, Xianxia, and Meng Long, sensing his astonishment, chuckled. Gongzi, there's no need to be courteous to such people. You should have done this from the very start, Xianxia said. Indeed, unscrupulous people like him should be dealt with this way. Meng Long agreed with Xianxia's words. After being beside Wang Chong for the last few days, their attitudes toward him had changed significantly. In the past, when Wang Chong was always fooling around with Ma Zhou and the others and brought trouble to the family, the both of them didn't really like him. Many times they were felt resentful toward him. However, the past month with Wang Chong had changed their impression of him. They had personally seen him accomplishing many inconceivable deeds. In the eyes of the two, Wang Chong was already the most outstanding offspring of the Wang clan, and they see it as their duty to protect him. Whoever who dares to talk bad about Wang Chong is their enemy. Su Bai tried to publicly humiliate him in public. How could Xianxia tolerate it? Well done. Wang Chong secretly shot a thumbs up to Xianxia and complimented him. The truth always surpasses all the other rumors, and Xianxia's actions had managed to effectively instill fear in them all. His action of smashing the crate was truly ingenious. Wang Chong couldn't have done it any better. The gates of the Wang clan was completely silent. Everyone was surprised by the sight of the 5,000 gold taels scattered before them. Even Wang Chong's mother, Zhao Shuhua, was stunned speechless. In total, Wang Chong has earned 2 loads of wealth. In the first time, after circling around the capital, he sent it over to Arloja and Ablonidon. The second time, he passed half of it to Wei Hao and the other half to his uncle. This was the first time Wang Chong was bringing gold back to his residence. Furthermore, it was sealed in a box. Thus, not even Madame Wang knew of the existence of this gold. This amount of gold taels was an unthinkable sum for the Wang family. Madame Wang wanted to ask Wang Chong where all of these gold came from, but she held it in. This wasn't the time for her to be asking such questions. How did you earn so much money? With eyes fixated on the gold spilling out from the crate, A scion muttered to himself in astonishment. In the Eight Gods Pavilion, they were already considered the more affluent bunch. Otherwise, they wouldn't have lent their money to Wang Chong. However, from the looks of it now, they were far from matching up to Wang Chong's wealth. There were at least 400 to 500 gold taels in the crate. This very fact was inconceivable to them. All of a sudden, everyone felt as though they lived in a different world from Wang Chong. It was as though there was a huge rift between them and Wang Chong. They were on one side of the rift, and Wang Chong, on the other side, had already ran far ahead of them, becoming an existence they could only look up toward. Wang Chong was still the same Wang Chong, but there was something about him now that daunted them. There's no need for you to know of it. Wang Chong's gaze swept the surroundings as he sneered coldly. Isn't it just a mere 1,700 gold taels? Come and exchange it with your debt notes then. I intended to pay each of you an additional 100 taels, but since you all are siding with Subai to deal with me, naturally you don't have to dream about that sum. This reward would only be left to those who didn't come today. 100 gold taels. Ah, I knew that I shouldn't have come. Young Master Chong, I have nothing to do with this. I didn't say anything at all just now. Me too. Young Master Chong, I'm just passing by. Upon hearing that 100 gold taels had just slipped them by, everyone immediately wailed in agony. Those who were of lower birth and lower standing couldn't afford to offend Subai, as well as the Duke of Su who was backing him. However, the Duke of Su hasn't reached a level where he was able to dictate everything that goes on in the royal court. Thus, there were also a few who refused to give in to Subai. Those who were here just wanted Subai to owe them a favor, but losing 100 gold taels for it was a heavy price. This was equivalent to their allowance for more than a year. This wasn't a small sum. It could finance their drinking and playing for a long time. Thus, upon seeing Subai fail in his affair and losing so many gold taels at once, they felt intense regret. Hee, young master sure is wise. Shinhai and Menglong didn't say anything, but they were grinning on the side. This was what being ingenious meant. Without forking out a single tael, he ripped apart Subai's faction. Some of those who were agitated by the matter even started cursing Subai. I didn't realize in the past, but young Master Sure is formidable, the duo thought. If Wang Chong had just passed the gold to them, these fellows might have just thought nothing of it. However, by telling them that he had intentionally to give them more, but because they decided to follow by Subai to deal with him, all of it was cancelled and their benefits were removed, they would feel their heart ache in pain. Beside Wang Chong, Shinhai and Menglong could clearly see the pained faces of the scions. A huge bunch of them were clearly unhappy with Subai. They might be hesitant to speak up as an individual, but it was different in a crowd. Bastard! Don't listen to his nonsense. Subai didn't expect Wang Chong to use such a move. He felt both anxious and infuriated. He had gone through much effort to gather so many scions and nobles, but his plan was about to fall apart right before him. How could Subai allow this to happen so easily? Wait a moment. Subai glanced at the wooden crate which Shunhai smashed on the ground and a thought flashed through his head. He abruptly stood forward, pointed to the gold tael and bellowed, Wang Chong! Your Wang clan isn't skilled in commerce and given your own capability, how could you possibly earn so much money? Humph! Could it be that your Wang clan is corrupt and accepted the bribes of others? Subai glared at Wang Chong menacingly, to the point that it felt as though he would tear him apart with his eyes. Previously, when Wang Chong had returned the blow to him, he nearly panicked. However, Subai swiftly recovered and the thought appeared in his mind. Given how the Wang clan didn't deal in commerce, living off just their measly stipends, how could they have so much money? In any case, Subai would never believe that the Wang clan would be able to save up so much money. There must something amiss in the matter. Censor Fu. Checking on the officials and ensuring order is your job. Even though the Wang clan has always been known as upright and incorruptible all along, they secretly corrupted so much gold for their own. I believe that there's a need for you to stand up and uphold order. Subai suddenly turned to look at a carriage led by a black and white striped horse. Jia. The doors of the carriage slowly opened and a purple-robed, white-haired elder walked out from the carriage with a dark expression. The elder was probably listening to the matter in the carriage, and only when Su Bai called for him did he walk out. Wang Chong didn't recognize the elder, but when he saw the fish token on his waist, his expression immediately darkened. Not only was he a censor of Great Tang, he was the assistant head censor. In order to deal with him, Su Bai had brought over 2 officials from the Court of Judicial Review, as well as a censor of Great Tang. Su Bai! Wang Chong glared at Su Bai ferociously. At the very worst, the officials from the Court of Judicial Review would just land Wang Chong in their jail. However, since he brought a censor along with him, it was clear that Su Bai's goal wasn't just him but the entire Wang clan. He was trying to pin the blame on the entire Wang clan, not giving Wang Chong a chance at all. And for a censor, instead of discussing important matters in the royal court, to hole himself in a carriage and listen to this farce, Wang Chong would never believe that Su Bai hasn't been planning this matter for a long time. Su Bai, you're bringing it upon yourself. A savage glint flashed across Wang Chong's eyes. Madam Wang Gongzi, I've seen everything that has happened from the carriage. I believe you all should have heard Su Gongzi's words. The Wang clan isn't a rich clan, and Duke Jiao is respected in the royal court for his incorruptibility. I do not want to suspect the Wang clan, but this crate of gold isn't something that the Wang clan could save up through their stipends. As a censor, it's my job to check on the officials and maintain order. I'm afraid that I'll have to report this matter to the emperor and the other nobles. Censor Fu spoke slowly, spouting out word by word. However, every single word of his felt incredibly heavy. Initially, the anger of the crowd was focused on Su Bai. However, ever since the appearance of this censor, everyone turned completely silent, not daring to say anything at all. Their gaze was filled with fear for the censor. In the Great Tang, there wasn't anyone else who instilled as much fear as the censors. A single wrong word from your mouth could end up as a report up the royal court. In the Great Tang, even the most playful scions knew that they could offend anyone but these censors. A 10-li radius around any censor was considered as a forbidden zone. There wasn't any scions or nobles who dared to fool about in front of these censors for fear of bringing harm onto their clan. No one could have imagined that Su Bai would hide a censor in his carriage and bring him along to the Wang clan. That bastard! Is he mad? To bring a censor over? Does he not know that it is a taboo? Everyone was apprehensive and resentful. It was one thing for Su Bai to deal with Wang Chong. To bringing a censor over was pull everyone else into the flames. In order to prove his allegiance toward the Yao clan and King Qi, as well as to deal with the Wang clan, he had truly gone all out. If possible, they would immediately escape as far as they could from Su Bai and Censor Fu. However, no one dared to move at all. If they were to catch the censor's eyes, they would be in for a great deal of trouble. Su Bai could sense the change in the atmosphere, but he was unrepentant. Instead, he gleefully stared at Wang Chong. Wang Chong, did you underestimate me? Since I want to present your head to the Yao clan, do you think that I wouldn't have done sufficient preparations? Su Bai sneered coldly. Before coming, he had reviewed his plan countless times to make sure that it was impeccable. If Wang Chong was unable to pay the 1,700 gold taels, the 2 officials from the Court of Judicial Review would be his present to the Wang clan. With them, he would surely be able to cause a big ruckus over the matter. But if by some sheer luck Wang Chong was able to repay them all, even though he didn't believe that it would be possible, the assistant head censor which he had brought would appear. No matter what, the Wang clan was doomed. Chonger! Madam Wang grabbed Wang Chong's hands tightly. At this moment, her face was incomparably pale. A censor appearing before the Wang family residence wasn't a small matter. By tomorrow, the Wang clan would be at the tip of everyone's tongue. Even though Madame Wang was a decisive person, it was limited to household affairs. How could a lady like her know of the matters of the royal court? Thus she panicked. Mother, don't worry. Leave this matter to me. Wang Chong held his mother's hands tightly as he spoke. What censor Fu? Other people might be afraid of him, but how could Wang Chong fear him? After weathering so many storms in his previous life, how could he be afraid of a mere censor? Wang Chong knew a bit about this Fu He. He has a hostile relationship with big uncle Wang Zhen, and he seemed to be dissatisfied with the prestigious standing Wang Chong's grandfather, Duke Zhou, has in the country. As such, he was often trying to find fault with the Wang clan. Also, of all censors, he had the closest relationship with the Duke of Su. Otherwise, no matter how bold Su Bai was, he wouldn't dare to invite him over. Censor Fu, you sure are free. When did checking on the officials and maintaining order become an inspection on the lives of ordinary civilians? Indeed, our Wang clan stipends do not allow us to save up to 1,000 gold taels. But does that mean that I won't be able to? Knowing about his background, Wang Chong didn't bother acting courteously around him. Hearing Wang Chong's words, everyone was flabbergasted. Fearful that the censors would report them up to the royal court, others usually acted carefully around them, trying to speak less if possible. After all, the more one spoke, the more likely one would misspeak. Yet Wang Chong refuted the censor directly. Gongzi, you should tone down. A censor isn't a joke. Shanhai and Meng Long tugged on Wang Chong's sleeves with a lowered head. They had come from the military, but after living in the capital for several years, they understood whom one should not trifle with. Wang Gongzi, you're saying that you earned this sum of money yourself? Censor Fu's eyes narrowed. For the first time, he seriously looked at Wang Chong in the eye. Yes, Wang Chong said without any hesitation. Su Bai's intention of trying to get a handle over Wang Chong through Censor Fu was a mistake from the very start. From his obtaining of the Hyderabad or to the smithing and sales of his sword were all legal, and they could be easily checked on. Even if a censor were to look into the matter, he would be unable to find a single fault with it. Ha ha ha! What a joke! Wang Chong, you were able to earn this sum of money. Before Censor Fu could even talk, Su Bai burst out laughing. He would never believe that Wang Chong could possess such abilities. To be able to come up with such a ridiculous excuse, it was as though he was treating them all as fools. If Wang Chong had such abilities, the Wang clan would have prospered long ago. The word incorruptibility wouldn't have been used on the Wang clan either. What does being incorruptible means? It means being poor. To dare speak nonsense before a censor, Wang Chong sure was brazen. Wang Gongzi, it is best that you speak of the truth. This matter isn't a joke. Censor Fu slowly spoke with a stern voice. Wang Chong's actions of spouting nonsense before him made him feel uncomfortable. He was challenging his prestige as a censor. Humph! It is up to you to believe it. If I say that I am the one who earned it, then I am the one who earned it. Do I need to lie about it? As a censor, you might possess great authority, but I don't think that you are so powerful that I have to report my finances to you. Wang Chong said coldly. Audacious! Hearing Wang Chong's words, Fu He flew into a rage. Madam Wang, how do you educate your child? Censors represent His Majesty himself, and given how this fund came from an unknown source, do you think that it is appropriate for me not to investigate it? Has the Wang clan grown so powerful so as to treat His Majesty with such contempt? Fu He glared at Madame Wang, Zhao Shuhua, with incomparably cold eyes. Upon hearing Censor Fu's words, Madame Wang's complexion paled. Disrespecting the emperor was a heavy crime. Chong-er, don't say any more. Madame Wang hurriedly pulled Wang Chong's hands. Censor Fu, angered, just as Wang Chong was about to reveal the matter at the Blue Bottle Pavilion. A resounding voice suddenly echoed in the air. Hasn't Wang Gongzi said it already? I will face off with anyone who dares to say that Wang Gongzi is lying. Hong Long Long, the ground tremored. Before anyone could make sense out of what was happening, from the far end of the street, numerous carriages galloped toward here, the Wang family residence, and dust danced into the air. The Imperial Army? Upon seeing the insignia on the carriages, the faces of the scions paled. The insignia on those luxurious and elegant carriages clearly belonged to the Imperial Army. But the problem was, what was the Imperial Army doing here? Scram to the side. Brats, scram to the side. Don't block the way. To dare to even block the path of the carriage of an Imperial Army member. Do your eyes grow on the back of your head? The Imperial Army has something to attend to. The small fries in front. Get out of the way. Domineering and unreasonable bellows roared from the carriages. The scions here all came from wealthy or prestigious families. But their identity meant nothing before the imperial army. Go to the side. Don't block the way. Hurry up and move your carriages away. Does those bastards not have any ears? Seeing how the imperial army members were rushing over furiously, and that there were no signs of them stopping, the scions immediately panicked and hurriedly ordered their coaches to move their carriage outside. Even Censor Fu, he couldn't help but be astounded by the presence of the imperial army members and quickly moved to the side. The academics and the military belonged to two different systems. Even though there were some overlaps here and there, the influence of one on the other took a huge cut. He might be able to impeach the ministers on the royal court with sufficient evidence and even criticize the current emperor if the need calls for it. However, he was helpless toward these imperial army members who were the guards of the emperor. Hong long long, the carriages of the imperial army stopped among the crowd. As they walked toward the scions hurriedly dodged aside, as though evading a plague. Look! Suddenly, someone noticed something. Then, the people around him noticed it as well. Commanders! These people are the commanders of the imperial army. Seeing the panther, dragons, tigers, and Qilin engravement on the various carriages, the scions were astounded. They had already backed 3 to 4 zhang away, and upon seeing those designs, they immediately retreated further. Everyone here possessed some knowledge of the imperial army. The panther, dragon, tiger, and Qilin engravement wasn't something that anyone could use. These represented the top commanders of the imperial army. Why are all these fellows here? Knowing their background, they were all astounded. These imperial army members were all like scorpions and tigers, whereas they were helpless chickens in their hands. They wouldn't even suffice as an entertainment for them. Humph! So it's you lot. Initially, Censor Fu he had moved to the side as well. However, upon seeing that it was the commanders of the imperial army, not only did he not retreat further, he even stepped forward. Instead of protecting His Majesty at the royal palace, what are you all doing here? Don't you all fear that I might report you all for neglecting your duties? Lord Censor, the imperial army is in charge of protecting His Majesty, but I don't believe that there is a clause saying that we can't leave the royal palace at all. Besides, do we have to report to you to purchase a few swords? These commanders all had lush beards, thick eyebrows, and lips. With a single look, it was clear that they were the wild and domineering type, the type who was impossible to rationalize with. Buy swords. Su Bai's heart skipped a beat as a thought flashed through his mind. What do you mean? Buying swords? Censor Fu asked with a grim expression. I can't be bothered to explain it to you. Other people might fear the censorate, but not the imperial army. The imperial army was the guards of the emperor. This means that their only superior was the emperor, and only the emperor had the authority to punish them. Even the censorate didn't wield such power. Gongzi, there's no need to quarrel with boors like them. The imperial army's soaring serpent, Captain Zhang Song, greets Gongzi. Isn't it just a few thousand gold taels? Why should you slander Gongzi for such a small sum? I have 50,000 gold taels in my carriage. Gongzi, feel free to take it. They must be truly blind to not even know the world's #1 swordsmith. Gongzi, your sword is truly beautiful. I beseech you to smith one for me as well. Money isn't a problem. Bastard. I haven't said anything yet. Gongzi, please forge one for me as well. Gongzi, I believe in your smithing skills. Just that, I don't think the gemstones on the sword is beautiful, so I brought a few over myself. Gongzi, feel free to choose to use any of these gems. The rest will all belong to you. My only request is for you to make my sword good-looking. Tisk, so have so many demands. Gongzi, I am unlike them. I will take anything that you forge, so please craft a sword for me. Amidst everyone's shocked gazes, the arrogant imperial army commanders suddenly turned into obedient lambs before Wang Chong, acting subserviently before him. That fawning and bootlicking look of theirs felt ridiculous to the crowd. Was this really the imperial army commanders who had just bellowed at them haughtily and charged straight toward them? What is going on? Everyone was stunned by the sight. When did Wang Chong possess such sorcery to make these imperial army commanders act so humble? Madame Wang was dumbfounded as well. The nannies, maids, and servants stared at one another. Soon, all of their gazes fell on Wang Chong. This sight was simply too ridiculous for them to bear. Only Wang Chong could explain it to them now. Wang Chong was also at a loss. These imperial army commanders came too suddenly that Wang Chong couldn't comprehend the situation all of a sudden. Just that from their words, it seemed to be related to the Wuxia steel sword he had forged. But why now? This question perplexed Wang Chong. Wait a minute. Are you all sure you all aren't mistaken? The person you are looking for is really Wang Chong. A voice abruptly echoed by the side. Su Bai walked out from the crowd, and his expression was so calm that it was frightening. He would never believe that Wang Chong could be the #1 swordsmith. Thus, upon seeing the arrival of the crowd, his first reaction was that they were at the wrong door, or perhaps they had found the wrong person. Who are you to be barking here? You must be blind to not recognize the world's #1 swordsmith. Hee, we don't even dare to address Gongzi by his name. Yet you brat dare to shout out Master's name. Scram to the side. Master, don't get angry. This kind of brat isn't worth your anger. Why don't I teach him a lesson for you? Su Bai's words had incited the insults of the imperial army members. Hearing their words, Su Bai's complexion turned awful. From young, Su Bai has always gotten what he wanted. Furthermore, he was intelligent, so he never suffered setbacks. When has he ever been humiliated like that? Yet, those in the imperial army were all boors who speak through their strength. Su Bai's reputation meant nothing to them at all. Wang Chong, someday, I will return the humiliation back to you. Since he wasn't able to deal with these powerful commanders' imperial army, especially when he didn't know their identities, he chose to vent his anger on Wang Chong instead. Wang Chong didn't know of Su Bai's thoughts, and he couldn't be bothered with them either. However, he found it interesting to see Su Bai's face flush with anger and embarrassment. In any case, Wang Chong was more bothered about the sudden appearance of the imperial army. Until now, he was still unable to comprehend why this many imperial army commanders were at his home all of a sudden. Furthermore, each of them was of prestigious standing. Thus, Wang Chong had to deal with them properly. We'll talk about the swords inside later, Wang Chong said. Given the large crowd which was increasing by the moment, this wasn't a good place to have a chat. Boom! Hearing Wang Chong's words, the imperial army commanders immediately cheered in agreement. We'll listen to Gongzi's words. Gongzi, feel free to do as you please. I won't be polite with anyone who dares to cause trouble. Gongzi, feel free to command us. We'll follow your orders. Gongzi, you must help us smith our swords. If I can't buy the Wuxia steel sword, I'll really die. Hearing those fawning words, Su Bai's face flushed further in resentment. Those imperial army commanders in the royal court often looked down on others and refused to submit to anyone. No one has ever seen them speaking so politely and fawning on someone. It was truly a mystery what kind of magic Wang Chong used to turn them like that. Su Bai could already be considered to be calm among the crowd. The other scions watching the sight were completely flabbergasted. This Wang Chong, isn't he too formidable? To be able to make the commanders of the imperial army fawn on him like that. To think that we helped Su Bai deal with him. Even 10 Su Bais aren't a match for him. This is like smashing an egg against a stone. The scions stared at Wang Chong, who was surrounded by the imperial army, in admiration. They wondered if they could ever be as impressive as Wang Chong and be respected by even the commanders of the imperial army. But amidst their admiration was fear. The current Wang Chong was already at a level far beyond them. He was someone they could only look up to. Meng Long, make some arrangements. Pay the people who had loaned me money based on their debt notes. Ignoring the crowd, Wang Chong turned to instruct Meng Long. Yes, young master. Meng Long replied. These nobles came with malicious intentions, but the debt was a separate matter. Meng Long admired his young master on how he didn't renege on his promises. Come over here to exchange the debt notes for your money. Our young master is magnanimous and won't fuss over this matter. Meng Long beckoned the scions over. Upon hearing that they could claim their money, the crowd cheered joyfully. They hurriedly rushed over to Meng Long. At the same time, a favorable impression of Wang Chong sprouted in them. Lord, does the 100 gold taels matter still apply now? A scion asked carefully. Scram! Meng Long reprimanded and everyone burst into laughter. Somehow, their relationship with the Wang clan didn't feel as stiff as how it was a moment ago. Upon seeing the sight, Wang Chong smiled. Just when he was about to walk over, he saw a figure with his peripheral vision and his gaze turned cold. He bellowed, Su Bai, where do you think you're going? As though thunder from the heavens, the shout shot through the streets. Dozens of steps away, Su Bai's body trembled. He abruptly stopped a few steps before his green carriage. At the same moment, all eyes immediately shot onto the son of the Duke of Su. The cheerings and laughter disappeared in an instant and the atmosphere suddenly tensed once more. Wang Chong, what do you want? Su Bai slowly turned around to look at Wang Chong furiously. The situation has changed and the tides were against him now. Initially, he intended to slip into his carriage and leave discreetly. Yet Wang Chong noticed him. Humph, since you've come, do you think you'll be allowed to leave that easily? Wang Chong flung his sleeves and spoke coldly. This Su Bai had staged this event to bring his downfall. For this, he even brought the officials from the Court of Judicial Review and Censor Fu He, all these just to create an uproar over the debt to strike a blow onto the Wang clan. Wang Chong could still reluctantly overlook the matter if Su Bai had charged straight at him. However, he had intended to bring calamity upon the entire Wang clan through this matter, leaving no point of reconciliation. If Wang Chong were to allow Su Bai to leave just like that, he wouldn't be Wang Chong. In an instant, the entrance of the Wang family residence turned silent. The atmosphere felt bizarre and dangerous, and the scions and nobles whom Su Bai brought didn't dare to even breathe. Even though Wang Chong seemed like an amiable person, sometimes he released an aura which instilled fear into others. The current Wang Chong may seem calm, but he emanated an aura which one couldn't help but feel terrified. What do you want? Do you intend to assault me before so many people? Su Bai sneered coldly. In fact, he was praying for Wang Chong to attack him. In terms of martial arts, he was superior to Wei Hao, needless to say, Wang Chong. With so many people here, including the officials of the Court of Judicial Review and a censor, he didn't believe that Wang Chong would dare to send his guards at him. Hee, don't worry. I won't send anyone at you. How could Wang Chong not know what Su Bai was thinking? If Su Bai thought that Wang Chong needed to make a move himself to deal with him, then he couldn't be any more mistaken. Wang Chong's goal wasn't just to inflict physical harm on him. Su Bai, you can leave, but I'm afraid that you will have to pay a visit to the jail cell of the Great Tang capital. Wang Chong sneered coldly. Su Bai's expression immediately changed upon hearing those words. You dare? Why don't I dare? Wang Chong turned to look at Censor Fu. Censor Fu, for falsely accusing and slandering an important official of the royal court, how should one be punished by the laws of Great Tang? For falsely accusing important officials of the royal court, one would be flogged 100 times, jailed for 3 years, and his nose will be sliced off before being exiled to the borders for menial labor. These words weren't said by Censor Fu, but by the 2 officials of the Court of Judicial Review whom Su Bai invited over. Other than filing contracts, documents, and enforcing agreements, they were in charge of carrying out punishments as well. Thus, no one was more familiar with the Great Tang laws than these officials of the Court of Judicial Review. Boom! The words of these 2 officials were as though a bolt of lightning. Everyone's face immediately changed, be it astonishment, fear, or anger. Su Bai's body trembled, as though he has just suffered a great blow, and his face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Even Censor Fu He's complexion darkened. Falsely accusing an important official was one of the heaviest crimes in the clauses of the Great Tang Law. These officials were the pillars propping up the empire, and if one could accuse such important officials without concrete evidence, the country would easily descend into chaos. Thus, the royal court had imposed a heavy punishment to avoid such situations. it wasn't really to protect these officials. Rather, it was to deter those unscrupulous people with malicious intentions. Su Bai had only thought of bringing down the Wang clan. He didn't think about the consequences of his failure beforehand. Wang Chong's father was a general by the border. Big Uncle Wang Zhen was an influential official in the royal court. And his grandfather, Duke Zhou, was a confidant of the emperor. Su Bai's action of attempting to bring down the Wang clan was equivalent to offending all of these people thoroughly. Thus, Wang Chong wasn't wrong at all in saying that Su Bai falsely accused important court officials. This time, Wang Chong wanted to teach Su Bai a heavy lesson. Lord Censor, you should have heard it, right? Even an emperor would be punished as though a civilian if he breaks a law. Lord Censor, surely you won't treat Su Bai specially just because of your relationship with Duke of Su. To Wang Chong's surprise, the two officials spoke up for him. However, this was even better. He wanted to see if Su Bai was able to get off the hook today. Wang Gongzi, it's good to be forgiving. Madam Wang, Su Gongzi is still young, and his brother and Duke of Su are important officials in the court, propping up the country. It isn't to the country's benefit to sour the relationship between both clans just because of a children's squabble. Madam Wang, what do you think of this? He turned to Madam Wang. He was acquainted with Duke of Su Fuwei. Otherwise, he wouldn't have accepted Su Bai's request and came along with him. Falsely accusing an important official of the royal court wasn't a small matter. If Su Bai were to be captured and held in the court of judicial review, he would become a laughingstock. Even worse, he wouldn't be able to account the matter to Duke of Su. He knew that it was impossible for Wang Chong to settle the matter peacefully. Thus, he turned his gaze to Madame Wang, Zhao Shuhua, in hopes that she would relent. As long as Madame Wang spoke in Su Bai's defense, this matter could be scaled down and settled peacefully. Lord Fu, I am just a mere woman and I don't know of the affairs of the royal court. Since the royal court has its own set of rules, we should follow it. Lord Fu, don't you agree? Zhao Shuhua had also gone all out this time. Su Bai had clearly come with the intentions of bringing down the Wang clan, and if not for her third son's wits, as well as the arrival of the imperial army, it would have been hard to resolve the matter today. The Wang clan had been known for its incorruptibility for numerous generations. Her father-in-law was also strict in upholding the family's honor and culture. If this matter were to be reported to the royal court, the Wang clan's prestige would be ruined. She would be unable to account the matter to her father-in-law as well. Furthermore, back then, when dealing with the Wang clan, this censor clearly operated fully by the rules without any intentions of going easy on them. Yet, toward Su Bai, his tone changed, saying what it was good to be forgiving. This made Madame Wang feel disgusted. Madam, he called in agitation. He didn't expect Madame Wang suddenly be so assertive on this matter. There's no need to say any more. Lord Fu, the royal court has its own rules. Are you trying to disregard them now? Wang Chong interjected Censor He's words. Without giving him a chance to say anything, Wang Chong turned to the two corpse-like officials of the Court of Judicial Review. Lords, I have the utmost respect for the Court of Judicial Review. Surely you won't let Su Bai go just because his father is a duke. How is that possible? The two officials' words echoed loudly. Men, arrest Su Bai. If he escapes, carry your heads back to the Court of Judicial Review. Yes, Lord. Several guards rushed forward, grabbed Su Bai by the sides, and carried him into the carriage. Wang Chong, you bastard. I will never forgive you. Just you wait. Su Bai cursed loudly as the guards dragged him onto the carriage. Without saying anything else, the two corpse-like officials turned around, got onto the carriage, and left. It didn't take long for them to disappear by the corner of the street. Su Bai was dragged away swiftly. Even though his father, the Duke of Su, wielded immense authority, it would still take a while for him to go through the various procedures to retrieve Su Bai. Thus, he would have to remain in the jail for a period long enough to etch this lesson deep into his mind. Let's go. We'll discuss the matter inside. Handing the miscellaneous matters outside to Menglong and Shanhai to deal with, Wang Chong ushered the Imperial Army commanders into the residence. Wang Gongzi, you sure have your own means. Having witnessed the situation, The Imperial Army commanders complimented Wang Chong's way of dealing with the situation and shot him a thumbs up. Not only did they not find Wang Chong's actions inappropriate, they even approved of them. Wang Chong responded with a chuckle as he led them to the lounge. After some chatter, even though Wang Chong wasn't too sure what was going on, he believed that the reason why all of them appeared at his gates today was related to Zhao Fengqian. As for the intentions of these Imperial Army commanders, that was even simpler. They were just here to buy swords. Some of them even brought carriages filled with gold tails, while others thought that the agates, pearls, and gemstones Wang Chong embedded on the wood steel sword were too inexpensive. So they brought large crates of top-quality agates, pearls, and gemstones here, allowing Wang Chong to pick freely among them. To summarize the entire situation, as long as they could obtain a wood steel sword, cost wasn't a problem. Wang Chong contemplated silently over the matter as he listened to their words. The wood steel sword has already made a name for itself during its sales at the Blue Bottle Pavilion. With 2 slashes, Wei Hao has cut through the best swords of the prestigious swordsmithing clans and workshops in the capital, thus forging the reputation of the wood steel sword as the #1 sword in the world. Also, selling the first sword to Zhao Fengqian has also helped build a reputation for it in the Imperial Army. Starting from this unique organization, Wang Chong has kickstarted the market for the wood steel sword. While this was an opportunity, Wang Chong had to handle this matter prudently. Rarity determined the price of an object, and given that so many of the Imperial Army members have come to him for a sword, Wang Chong couldn't agree to all of them. Otherwise, the price of the wood steel sword would fall sharply. This wasn't what Wang Chong wanted. However, Wang Chong couldn't reject them either. I believe that all of you know about the sharpness of the wood steel sword. Just as the Imperial Army commanders were listing out the request, and the entire lounge was bursting with chatter, Wang Chong suddenly spoke, immediately drawing everyone's attention. The more incredible a sword is, the longer it takes to forge it. A normal steel sword can be forged in just half a day, but it is impossible for a top-notch sword to be created in the same duration. Wang Chong said, Of course. Gongzi is right. I've heard that swordsmithing clans take more than a month to craft an ordinary top-tier sword. Given that the sword Gongzi forges is the #1 sword in the world, naturally, it will take much more effort and time. If Gongzi is worried about the deadline, there's no hurry at all. We can wait. The group immediately complied along with Wang Chong. This wasn't mere pleasantries, but true admiration. Wang Chong may just be 15-year-old, but in their eyes, he was someone who has become the #1 swordsmith in the world through his capabilities. Regardless of his age, he was someone worthy of such respect. More importantly, they witnessed the prowess of the wood steel sword for themselves, and it has left them shocked. If not for this, they wouldn't have rushed to the Wang clan in a group. I'm glad that everyone understands my position. Sitting in the center of the room, Wang Chong smiled. He may be young, but he exuded a mature, magnanimous, and dependable aura which stood out even among the group of esteemed commanders of the Imperial Army. I am willing to forge swords for you all, but I have my own rules. At this point, Wang Chong paused. His words were filled with confidence, and there was something about his voice which induced others to listen to him. All of the commanders listened attentively to his words. Every single master swordsmith has their own rules and quirks. As such, they weren't surprised that Wang Chong has his own rules, and they perked their own ears to listen closely to his words. Firstly, I will only forge one of each kind of sword. As such, each sword will be different in terms of style, appearance, and model. There won't be any replicas. That's no problem at all. Everyone quickly nodded in agreement. The reason why they wanted to buy Wang Chong's swords was because his swords were unique and its capabilities far surpassed the other blades. Otherwise, there were many workshops and weapon shops in the capital. There was no need for them to go through all the trouble. In fact, they were relieved that Wang Chong was willing to devote his attention wholeheartedly into making their swords unique. Wang Chong has just formulated these thoughts within his head. Objects were priced on their rarity, and the Imperial Army was just the start for Wang Chong. If Wang Chong wished to retain his reputation as the #1 swordsmith in the world, he mustn't forge the same sword repeatedly. This could help to build his reputation, as well as to maximize his profits. To forge a single top-notch sword in a month, and every sword has to be of different style, appearance, and model, it would be difficult for any other swordsmith to do so. However, Wang Chong was different. Given the large amount of knowledge he has stored in his mind, it was no problem at all. Secondly, the swords that I forged are top-quality products. A huge amount of time and effort has to be expended on them, and as such, it'll take around a month to forge a single sword. Wang Chong lifted up a second finger and he spoke. Why? Can't you forge 2, 3, or 4 swords every month? Initially, everyone was still nodding their heads in agreement. However, upon hearing that Wang Chong would only forge a single sword every month, they immediately began wailing. There are so many of us here. How can there be enough for us all? There were at least 30 to 40 commanders of the Imperial Army here. If Wang Chong was only going to produce a single sword every month, when would there be sufficient swords for all of them here? Also, how will you determine who would get the sword every month? That's simple. At this point, Wang Chong chuckled. Every month, I will conduct an auction. Every sword made will only be of higher quality than the previous one. If you all are interested, you all can feel free to join. Whoever who puts up the highest bid will get the sword. However, the slots for the auction will be limited, and not everyone will be able to participate in it. Only those who have paid the deposit for the sword will be allowed to participate in the auction. For those who are here today, I can give you a discount of 10% on your sword. Those who come after won't get such a privilege. Boom! Initially, everyone thought that Wang Chong was forging too little swords and thus, they tried to bargain with him on that aspect. However, upon hearing that there were limited slots for the auction, how could they continue to fuss over such details? They immediately charged forward and crowded around Wang Chong. Wang Gongzi, it's no problem at all. I'm willing to pay as much money as it takes. Wang Gongzi, how much is the deposit? I will bring the sum over right now. Wang Gongzi, you must sell it to me. I'll be your loyal buyer. Wang Gongzi, please reserve a slot for me. They squeezed one another, trying to get closer to Wang Chong. They weren't the only commanders in the Imperial Army, and they could be considered as the earliest wave here. If they were any later, they wouldn't be entitled to such a discount. When the rest comes later on, the fight for the slots would only get more and more intense. As for the matter regarding only a single sword being produced each month, that wasn't a problem at all. Which of the famous swordsmith didn't operate in this manner? Besides, Wang Chong has said that every single sword of his would be unique. Regardless of whether it was the design, the outer appearance, or the model, they would be different from one another. Not to mention, his reputation as the #1 swordsmith in the world made the swords worth collecting. Even if they ended up not using it, they could probably earn a hefty sum by selling it in the future. Of course, this is if you are willing to sell it after witnessing the prowess of the weapon for yourself. All in all, the matter regarding there only being a single sword every month was just an issue of money. Any problem that could be solved with money wasn't a problem for them. Seeing the group charge toward him, Wang Chong was delighted. He took the idea of collecting deposits for the sword from the real estate industry from another world. Without doing anything, he has already earned a huge sum of money for himself. At this moment, what Wang Chong required the most was a huge amount of gold, and the deposits from the Imperial Army commanders added up to an astronomical figure. At the entrance of the residence, the payment of the debtors didn't take long. Wang Chong only owed them a few taels each, and the matter was settled swiftly. Wang Chong called Xinhai and Meng Long over and they began writing receipts. The incident at the Blue Bottle has already brought the price of the Wuxia steel sword up to 40,000 gold taels. As such, the qualification to attend the auction was priced at 20,000 gold taels. While the cost wasn't cheap, it wasn't too high either. At the same time, it served as a good entrance fee to sieve out those who were just interested in the commotion. Wang Chong also explained the matter regarding the matter of the deposit. Every single deposit corresponded to the privilege to bid in the auction. If one failed to purchase the sword in the auction, one was entitled to a full refund of the deposit. Of course, one could also pass the privilege on to others, and Wang Chong would acknowledge it. However, as the first batch of buyers, their privilege entitled them to a 10% discount on Wang Chong's swords. As such, the privilege has become a hot commodity. No one would be willing to ask for a refund. Possessing the knowledge of his previous life, very few people could compete with him in terms of marketing strategies. With Xinhai and Menglong's assistance, it didn't take long for a receipt to be given to the more than 30 Imperial Army commanders in the room. Given that each of them had paid 20,000 gold taels each, it added up to more than 600,000 gold taels. This was an astronomical sum. Menglong and Xinhai were impressed by Wang Chong's ability to earn money. In fact, they weren't the only one. The other Wang family residence guards, maids, nannies, and servants who had gathered around curiously were also astounded. Their young master was simply too incredible. Just by writing a few notes, he has earned more than 600,000 gold taels. Where else could one see such a sight? With such means, it was just a matter of time before he breaks through the heavens. In comparison, all of the other merchants in the capital seemed insignificant and petty. Am I dreaming? Young master. Is this really our young master? Our Wang clan will finally become an affluent clan as well. The old nannies, servants, maids, and guards who served at the Wang clan for decades widened their eyes, and their bodies trembled in agitation. One of the older nannies even fainted from excessive agitation. It was a miracle. Even after serving in the Wang clan for their entire lives, they've never seen such a huge fortune. After years of frugality, the Wang clan has finally struck gold. In the blink of an eye, several other old nannies fainted as well. Even when they fainted, there was nothing but bliss and exhilaration on their faces. Third young master was too incredible. All of the Imperial Army commanders came excitedly and departed thrilled. Even though they failed to leave with a Wuxia steel sword, they were content with receiving a discount on the auction of the world's #1 swordsmith. Not to mention, it was a 10% discount. There were many other commanders in the Imperial Army, and several were higher ranked than them. However, with this tiny receipt in their hands, the others would have to back off. As for the deposit of 20,000 gold taels, it was no problem to them at all. Which of the commanders of the elite Imperial Army didn't have a lustrous background? 20,000 gold taels wasn't a small sum of money, but it meant nothing to people of their standing. After sending the Imperial Army commanders off and delegating some instructions to the servants, Wang Chong stepped into his mother's room. Usually, there would be some nannies and maids waiting by his mother's side. But this time, other than Wang Chong and Madame Wang, there was no one else in the room. The 600,000 gold taels stacked up in a miniature mountain was a shocking sight to Madame Wang. The Wang clan was a clan of general and ministers, and after marrying into the clan, Madame Wang has witnessed many different things. Even so, Wang Chong's ability to earn 600,000 gold taels in a snap of the fingers was still an amazement to Zhao Shuhua and the incorruptible Wang clan. Even though a gentleman loves money, he obtains it through righteous means. If Wang Chong had earned his fortune through dishonest dealings, Zhao Shuhua would berate Wang Chong and stop him. However, she personally witnessed the Imperial Army commanders happily dumping their gold taels and gemstones on the Wang family residence. In fact, there were even a few who felt that they were giving too little. Clearly, Wang Chong's wealth came from a clean source. Chong-er, what's going on? The room was silent. Seated on a chair, Madame Wang faced Wang Chong and spoke the words that have been plaguing her mind the entire day. Even at this moment, she has yet to recover from the shocking sight of the 600,000 gold taels. Wang Chong was hiding too many things from her. I should come clean now. Standing before his mother, Wang Chong's head was lowered. Even though this wasn't the ideal situation Wang Chong had in mind, he didn't think that he should put off the matter any longer. The matter this time taught Wang Chong a heavy lesson. Sometimes, decisions made with the welfare of the others at heart may not be truly beneficial to them. After organizing his thoughts, Wang Chong started to talk about the affairs regarding the Hyderabad ores without hiding anything at all. So, you're saying that you borrowed the money from those scions for the smithing of the sword? Madame Wang asked. Wang Chong nodded in response. Madame Wang examined Wang Chong intently, and there was an unspeakable emotion welling up in her chest. For an instant, Zhao Shuhua felt that Wang Chong seemed foreign to her, but at the next, she felt relief as a mother. Chong, you have finally grown up. Madame Wang stared at Wang Chong, gladdened. Which mother didn't wish for their own son to accomplish great feats? The current Wang Chong has surpassed all expectations she had for him. Wealth has always been a fatal flaw of the Wang clan. Of the entire Wang clan, and this was including Big Aunt Wang Rushuang, Little Uncle, and Wang Chong's own family, there wasn't a single person who was talented in commercialism. Big Uncle Wang Zhen was slightly skilled in the aspect. With several businesses under him, his financial situation was the best within the clan. Even so, it was only to that extent. He was still far from matching up to the truly affluent clans in the capital. Somehow, the Wang clan just wasn't skilled in managing businesses. Including Wang Chong's big brother and second brother, there wasn't in the Wang family who possessed outstanding aptitude in that aspect. However, at this moment, Zhao Shuhua could see talent in commercialism that exceeded anyone else in her youngest son. That was 600,000 gold taels. This astonishing fortune was sufficient to sustain all of the members of the Wang clan for several decades straight. Mother, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have hidden this matter from you. Wang Chong apologized with a lowered head. Madame Wang shook her head. Son, this matter has shown me that you have become mature and dependable. In the future, you need not report to me about such stuff. Feel free to do whatever you want to. Mother believes in you. Mother. Wang Chong felt moved. For a moment, he stared at his mother, unable to speak a single word. Wang Chong stepped out of his mother's room with a lightened heart. Even though Su Bai nearly got the better of him, he managed to avert the crisis and turn the tables on him. Through this matter, he has won the absolute trust of his mother, and his mother has permitted him to do whatever he wants to. Not long after Wang Chong started practicing his martial arts in the courtyard, Wang Chong's uncle, Li Lin, knocked on the doors of the Wang clan anxiously. The commanders of the Imperial Army has been here? That was the first question Uncle Li Lin asked upon meeting Wang Chong. Wang Chong nodded. Those fellows sure react fast. I have rushed as fast as I could, but I still wasn't able to outspeed them. Smiling, Li Lin shook his head. The joys of life reinvigorates one. Ever since Li Lin was redeployed from his position as a section commander in the North Gates, he seemed to have become livelier, and the words he spoke has increased. Uncle, has something happened at the royal court? Is it Zhao Fengchen? Wang Chong asked. When Wang Chong tried to pry open the mouths of the other Imperial Army commanders, their lips were tightly sealed. However, there were some things that they were unable to hide from Wang Chong. That's right. Zhao Fengchen has defeated Huang Xiaotian and became a marshal. He has become the only marshal promoted in the past few years. Li Lin didn't hide anything from Wang Chong and spoke of the truth. Marshal Zhao and Huang Xiaotian's martial arts are on par with one another. In fact, Huang Xiaotian seemed to be slightly more skilled than Marshal Zhao. However, Marshal Zhao enjoyed an overwhelming advantage in terms of weaponry. With a single slash, not only did he cut through Huang Xiaotian's winter thirst, he even split the steel armor on his body into two. He was just a hair's breadth away from splitting the other party's body into two as well. There were many people spectating the fight then, and another marshal of the Imperial Army was there as well. Everyone was stunned by the sharpness of Marshal Zhao's sword. That bunch of fellows who came to look for you must have been present as well. To think that they would sneak here to look for you. Huang Xiaotian and Zhao Fengchen's fight for the position of the marshal was a huge affair for the Imperial Army. What was at stake wasn't just the seat of a marshal, it was also a face-off between the two factions in the Imperial Army. Wang Chong couldn't be any more aware of that fact. Even though his uncle didn't describe the matter in detail, Wang Chong could sense the tenseness in that fight. It's good that Lord Zhao has been promoted to a marshal, Wang Chong said, after which, he told of the matter regarding the 600,000 gold taels to Uncle Li Lin. Just like that, Zhao Fengchen and Huang Xiaotian's fates have been changed. In the future, many things would change as well. Wang Chong knew that after being promoted to a marshal, the royal court would devote its resources to grooming Zhao Fengqian. As such, Zhao Fengqian's growth would be hastened, and he would achieve the position of a grand marshal much faster than before. And given that Wang Chong's uncle has contributed to him through presenting him the Wuxia steel sword, he would rise through the ranks in the imperial army alongside Zhao Fengqian. With this relationship, it would become more convenient for Wang Chong to sell his swords to the imperial army. Furthermore, Uncle Li Lin has always been the weakest link of the Wang clan. If he could achieve success alongside Zhao Fengqian in the imperial army, the strength of the entire Wang clan would be brought to new heights. Today's matter is not a one-time-off thing. Most probably, more people will come looking for me in the future. Thus, I hope to leave this matter to Uncle. With Lord Zhao covering you in the royal court, it should be more convenient for you to deal with this matter. Wang Chong said. Wang Chong was prepared to pass on the matter regarding the bidding privilege and the organization of the auction for the Wuxia steel sword to Uncle Li Lin to handle. This wasn't just for Wang Chong's convenience, or that Uncle Li Lin's position made it easier for him to deal with such matters. Rather, Wang Chong hoped to raise Uncle Li Lin's standing in the imperial army through this matter. When most of the commanders, generals, and even marshals have requests of Uncle Li Lin, his standing and prestige within the imperial army would rise naturally. Uncle Li Lin's promotion would probably come much faster than he himself could expect. Furthermore, with Zhao Fengqian and the Zhao clan shielding him, few people would dare to cause him trouble. What was even more incredible was that the commanders from the various differing factions would wish to obtain the Wuxia steel sword, and this would prop Zhao Fengqian and Uncle Li Lin's position in the imperial army upward. At the same time, they would meet with less resistance and opposition as well. That is, if these people still desire to purchase Wuxia steel swords in the future. All in all, only in Uncle Li Lin's hands will maximum benefits be derived from this matter. Rest easy, I know what I should do. Right, your aunt asked for you to come by when you are free so as to chat with your cousin and guide him along. That fellow is arrogant, but his abilities are lacking. Your aunt and I hope that you can help us teach him a lesson, Li Lin said. Wang Chong chuckled. Big Aunt and Uncle have a son named Wang Liang. Even though Uncle's surname is Li, the family followed by Big Aunt's surname. This was the usual practice when the maternal family was much more powerful than the paternal family. Big Aunt and Uncle have high hopes of cousin Wang Liang, but it was a pity that he seemed to be drifting further and further from their expectations. All right, I will go over when I have time, Wang Chong said. It wasn't long before grandfather's birthday, and if nothing goes wrong, cousin Wang Liang would be there as well. There was no difference meeting him at Big Aunt's house or during grandfather's birthday. After earning 600,000 gold taels, the matters that Wang Chong could engage in has expanded significantly. Finally, he could set his plan into motion. After sending Uncle off, Wang Chong immediately brought Shenhai and Menglong, along with a crate of gold ingots, to the white agate jewelry store to look for the two Sindhi monks, Ablonidin and Arloja. Masters, I have brought the money for the 300 June of Hyderabad ores. Wang Chong pointed to the crate and gestured. Pang! Shenhai and Menglong carried the crate over to Ablonidin and Arloja. There's 80,000 gold taels here. It's yours, Wang Chong said confidently. Despite their usual composure, Arloja and Ablonidin's heart jolted violently upon hearing Wang Chong's words. But at the next moment, they felt bewildered. Gongzi, didn't you give us 30,000 gold taels before? Furthermore, didn't you devote some money to convert them into rations? Why are you giving us so much money now? This is already far beyond 90,000 gold taels. 80,000 gold taels, along with the 30,000 gold taels which Wang Chong passed to them previously, added up to a total of 110,000 gold taels. This was already far beyond the sum they have agreed on beforehand. This left the duo perplexed. All right, last finalization. Zhao Fengqian is a general. He is promoted to a marshal. The highest rank in the imperial army is the grand marshal. Ha ha ha. I won't hide anything from you too. Your Hyderabad ore has brought me much profit this time. In gratitude, I decided to increase the payment to 400 gold taels per June from 300. Wang Chong laughed heartily. Ah! The duo was taken aback. I know that Sindhu needs the money urgently, so feel free to take it. As for the excess, take it as the deposit for the next batch. Of course, this is just the price for the first batch. The price may still rise higher in the future along with our partnership. Wang Chong said. Gongzi! They were both astonished and moved. Often, many business partners only spoke of strictly business and don't interact on a personal basis. As such, the relationship between both sides was shallow and mainly revolved around profits. The condition in Sindhu was severe, and no amount of money was too much for them. If they could, they would plead for aid. However, who would be willing to lend the sum of money to them? There was no need for Wang Chong to pay them an additional sum after earning a fortune. This was no longer just business. Gongzi, we will remember this gratitude. We thank you on behalf of Sindhu. Gongzi, rest assured, we will definitely return this favor in the future. Ablanadin and Arloja lowered their heads and spoke earnestly. Wang Chong chuckled. Before the two Sindhi monks said anything, Wang Chong raised the price of the Hyderabad ore by a third, from 300 gold taels per June to 400 gold taels per June. Wang Chong wasn't a fool. It wasn't because he didn't have any other use for the money, but rather he was considering deeper into the matter. Wang Chong's first thought after obtaining the 600,000 gold taels deposit from the 30-plus Imperial Army commander was to ensure and increase his supply of Hyderabad ores. A single Wuxia steel sword was insignificant in a war. 300 Wuxia steel sword was only useful in a small skirmish. Without sufficient of it, it was impossible for the Wuxia steel sword to bring about strategic purpose. If Wang Chong desired to bring out the fearsome strength of the Wuxia steel sword to determine the tides of a war, as he has witnessed in his previous life, he had to equip at least an entire army. Meaning, he had to equip soldiers in units of 10,000. And only then would the might of the Wuxia steel weapons show through. Only then would it be of use for Wang Chong to accomplish his dream and mission. Thus, from the very start, Wang Chong wasn't content with just the 300 June of Hyderabad ore. What he wanted was the entire Hyderabad mine. If he could, he would even buy the entire mine down. And that 600,000 gold taels had given him the strength to accomplish his ambitions. Sindhu was a far distance away from the Central Plains. In contrast, it was much closer to the Abbasid Caliphate and Charax-Spazinu. This was a factor that Wang Chong had to take into account when competing against them for the rights to the Hyderabad ore. The one in the lakeside pavilion obtains the moon first. Given the difference in distance, it was impossible Sindhu to neglect the closer Abbasid Caliphate and Charax-Spazinu for the faraway Central Plains. If Wang Chong wanted to triumph against the Abbasid Caliphate and the Charax-Spazinu in the fight for the Hyderabad ore, he could only do so in a price war. Even though Arloja and Ablanadin didn't say it explicitly, it was clear that 300 gold taels per June was the lowest price Sindhu could accept. Otherwise, they wouldn't go to the extent of breaking down the negotiations immediately when a lower price was offered. Thus, the Abbasid Caliphate and Charax-Spazinu must have been offered the same price as well. The earliest bird gets the worm. If Sindhu felt that they could obtain more profits from the Central Plains, they would give priority to the faraway Central Plains instead of Charax-Spazinu or Abbasid Caliphate. At the same time, this would raise Sindhu's expectations for the Abbasid Caliphate and the Charax-Spazinu. However, the two countries would definitely find it hard to accept the abrupt rise in price. Wang Chong would benefit as the conflict between the both sides worsened. This was what Wang Chong was aiming for. Tens of thousands of gold taels meant nothing to him. His priority was to maximize the supply of Hyderabad ores to the Central Plains. Stepping out from the white agate jewelry store, Wang Chong couldn't help but laugh heartily. Then, he drove the carriage to the Ghost Tree District. After Subai was captured by the Court of Judicial Review and jailed, the matter before the Wang clan spread as though the wind, reaching the ears of all of the nobility throughout the capital. What? Subai is in jail? The one who sold the sword at the Bluebottle Pavilion was Wang Chong. When the news reached the Yao clan, Yao Feng smacked the table. Astonishment reflected in his eyes. He has been waiting in anticipation for news of Subai's victory, but unexpectedly, what welcomed him was this instead. Yes, Gongzi. A Upon hearing of the matter, Duke of Su quickly left the royal court to save Su Gongzi. As for Wang Chong, we have witnessed the imperial army commanders bringing carriages of gold and jewels to visit the Wang family residence. Every single one of them addressed Wang Chong as the #1 swordsmith in the world. Kneeling on the floor, Gao Fei reported. When the matter happened, Gao Fei was within the crowd as well. Knowing that Wang Chong knew of his identity, he made sure to proceed carefully to escape his notice. Yao Feng found it hard to believe that Su Bai would be jailed, and Wang Chong was the Bluebottle Pavilion's #1 swordsmith in the world. He was completely astounded by the turn of events. What kind of sword could be worth 40,000 gold taels? How could a brat like him possess such capability? Yao Feng spat through gritted teeth. It wasn't long ago when Wang Chong was just a profligate scion in the capital, and his target for revenge against the Wang clan. In fact, even a mere Ma Zhou was able to play him in his palms. But in an instant, Wang Chong suddenly turned into the #1 swordsmith in the world. The abrupt change was so shocking that Yao Feng couldn't believe it. Needless to say, accept it. We've no idea as well, but it is impossible for the imperial army to be mistaken. Su Gongzi has asked them whether they have made a mistake, but all he received as their ridicule. Gao Fei reported. This wasn't the only residence that was shocked by Wang Chong's hidden identity. The truth was that all of the scions at the scene back then were completely flabbergasted by the matter. While Gao Fei was on the road to the Yao residence, a large group of scions has gathered at the Eight Gods Pavilion to discuss this matter. Through this incident, Wang Chong's standing amidst the other scions has grown significantly, reaching an unthinkable level. The Wang clan was a family of generals and ministers. It was in no way inferior to the Yao clan. While the old Master Yao had connections all over the empire, Duke Zhou students and acquaintances were scattered around the Central Plains as well. The Yao clan has the backing of King Qi. The Wang clan has the backing of King Song. However, the Wang clan was sorely lacking in its commercial abilities. However, if it could make up for this fatal flaw, it would be inferior in no way to the Yao clan. Thus privately, everyone talked about Wang Chong, saying that he was an ascending figure in the capital, and that he didn't pale in comparison to Yao Feng. Amidst their words, fear could be heard. However, Gao Fei didn't dare to speak of all these to Yao Feng. The entire room was silent. Yao Feng stood quietly in the room. His face was unreadable. I have wasted so much time on a Su Bai. Looks like I should carry out that plan of mine. Yao Feng thought. You can leave now. Tell Duke of Su that I will try to get my father to cooperate with him to save Su Bai. Yao Feng said. Thank you, Gongzi. Delighted, Gao Fei took his leave. Watching Gao Fei's back, Yao Feng sneered coldly. Even though Gao Fei didn't point out the matter explicitly, Yao Feng could immediately tell Duke of Su's purpose of sending him over. Falsely accusing an important official of the royal court. Wang Chong, you sure are impressive. Yao Feng sneered. Wang Chong and Su Bai were just 15-year-old and 17-year-old youngsters, and usually the Court of Judicial Review wouldn't interfere in such matters. However, Su Bai's inept has given Wang Chong a handle over him. Even though the crime of slandering an important official of the royal court wasn't sufficient to do him in, it was more than enough to have him suffer a fair bit in the jail. Duke of Su may wield immense authority, but he just happened to have no connections whatsoever in the Bureau of Punishments, so he could only plead with the Yao clan for help. Leaving the room, Yao Feng soon reached the inner quarters of the residence. At the same time, he released a letter pigeon from his embrace, and it flew straight from the Yao clan residence, through the vast skies, toward a tavern sited toward the east of the city. Shua! At several chi away from the windows, before the pigeon could land, pong! The windows opened and a black shadow flickered. In an instant, the pigeon was snatched into the room. Humph! It's finally starting. A cold voice echoed in the room. Then, everything went silent, and even the pigeon seemed to have disappeared from the room. As though a thin layer of water, the moonlight scattered over the ground, cloaking the ground, walls, and roofs with a layer reminiscent of white frost. Beneath the moonlight, several black-clothed masked figures crept about on a roof not too far away from the Wang family residence. They were all well-built, and there was a sharp machete in their hands. Their gazes were fixated on the faraway Wang family residence. Do you all understand the purpose behind our operation? Regardless of the cost, we must obtain one of the top sword of the Central Plains. Also, we must try to avoid killing anyone. The Wang clan is a prestigious clan of general and ministers in the Central Plains, and if a huge amount of casualties were to occur, the royal court would definitely investigate the matter stringently. This isn't a good thing for us Western region merchants. The masked man standing at the very front said. Without anyone else speaking a word, the person has already revealed his background. In fact, their physique was far different from those of the Central Plains, and even their dark clothes did nothing to conceal their identity. It was far too easy to identify their background. Yes, boss. The group of people lowered their head, not bothering to speak any excessive words. With a single look, it was clear that they have gone through strict training and were extremely disciplined. Good. These are sleeping gas pellets. Everyone will bring 5 of it with them. If you all see any members of the Wang clan, just throw it on the floor. They will pass out soon enough. Remember, there are many guards in the Wang clan, and as a clan of generals and ministers, members of the Imperial Army would patrol this area. Our purpose isn't to fight with them or to slaughter the Wang clan, but to swiftly obtain the sword and pass it to our lord. This is our main priority, so don't get stalled by anyone. Understand? The leading black-clothed man said. Yes, boss. The rest of the group replied. All right, move out. As such, the group of black-clothed men stretched out their hands and leaped to the ground nimbly. Stepping across the roofs and sneaking in between walls, they moved to the Wang family residence with astonishing swiftness. The one in the lakeside pavilion obtains the moon first. Imagine a pavilion in the middle of the lake, and the moon is reflected on the surface of the lake. It means that those who are in proximity are in a better position to obtain what they want. Hua! In the room, Wang Chong rolled open a 3-chi-long xian paper. Dabbing the brush in ink, he started to contemplate over the design of the second Wuxia steel sword he was going to forge for the auction. The commanders of the Imperial Army weren't fools. Those who were able to climb through the ranks were people possessing true abilities. Even though they gave their money to Wang Chong generously, their expectation of the sword was extremely high. The swords that Wang Chong forged has to satisfy their demands. It's fortunate that the design of the swords in this world is still quite plain. I still have a huge variety of choices to choose from, Wang Chong thought. In this generation, despite the numerous swordsmiths in the capital, as people were more concerned with the sharpness of their weapon, they neglected the appearance of the blade. As such, most of the swords forged were of the same design. In comparison, Wang Chong seemed to be a grandmaster in this aspect. A good tavern didn't fear being buried in the deep alleys. A good packaging was important in all commercial activities. For example, alcohol stored in the porcelain bottle would be much more conspicuous than alcohol stored in a normal jar. A sword with a beautiful outer appearance was entirely different from a plain-looking sword. Since I've already tried forging a sword, maybe I should go for a saber for the auction. Wang Chong thought. Saber was always one of the 2 kings of weapons. Even though most of those in the Central Plains preferred to use swords, the standing of saber was still above that of the other weapons. As it was much more difficult to wield a saber, if one wasn't a top-notch expert, it was difficult to bring out the true strength of a saber. Even so, Wang Chong knew that there were quite a few saber experts in the Imperial Army. If Wang Chong wanted to solidify his standing as the #1 swordsmith in the world, he must be more than capable of smithing swords. More than that, he has to prove that he was unrivaled in the art of saber crafting as well. There wasn't a single commander in the Imperial Army that wasn't picky. An ordinary saber wouldn't satisfy them. As Wang Chong mused over the matter, something appeared in his mind. Of the publicly renowned 3 great swords, other than the Wuxia steel sword, there was also the katana of Japan as well. The Japanese katana originated from the Great Tang's Modeo, but it was much more suited for hacking moves than the Modeo. However, in this world, Japan didn't exist. Wang Chong didn't intend to simply replicate the katana, but rather, he hoped to design a new sword using the katana as the fundamental blueprint. After contemplating for a moment, the brush started moving around the xian paper. A moment later, An entirely new sword unlike any other in this world appeared on the paper. This sword was shaped similar to the Japanese katana, but it was more than a single fold longer, reaching around 6 chi to 7 chi long. The blade was extremely slim and long, and following suit, the hilt was the same as well. It was impossible for an ordinary human to use this kind of sword, given that it was of the equal height as them. However, Wang Chong paid no heed to the matter. The 6 chi weighed around 60 jin, making it impossible for ordinary humans to wield it. However, for the martial artists who possessed unparalleled strength, the design of the sword, which made it suitable for hacking movements, could unleash the true destructive might of the Wuxia steel. Wang Chong was certain that this weapon would bewitch the saber experts of the Imperial Army. However, I'll need more materials for the crafting. At the very minimum, I will require June 2nd, Wang Chong thought. Wang Chong has spent just a single June of Hyderabad or to craft the first Wuxia steel sword. However, crafting this blade would require at least June 2nd. Even though the cost has increased significantly, Wang Chong believed that the price would rise proportionately as well. Wang Chong would only earn greater profits from the sword. Just as Wang Chong was musing over the matter, the slight sound of the wind suddenly reached Wang Chong's ears. Frowning, Wang Chong abruptly stopped all actions. Intruders! Wang Chong immediately realized what was going on. He might have lost the incredible cultivation he possessed in his previous life, but his experience and keen senses were still present. That was the sound of a robe battered against strong wind. Someone has sneaked into the Wang family residence. If you think that you can enter and leave the Wang family residence as and when you please, you are sorely mistaken. Wang Chong's lips curled up coldly. Regardless of whether it was the 600,000 gold taels present in the residence or the Wuxia steel sword, many people would definitely be blinded by greed. As the saying goes, possessing a treasure is a cardinal sin. If Wang Chong wasn't guarded against such thieves, he would truly be unbefitting of an ex-grand marshal. Extinguishing the candle flame, Wang Chong immediately grabbed the Wuxia steel sword hanging on the wall. He discreetly pushed open the window and sneaked out. At the forge of the Wei clan, Wang Chong crafted a total of 4 swords. However, he only decorated a single one of it, embedding agates and gemstones on the hilt of the sword and plating the sheath with gold, making it look both extravagant and elegant. As for the other 3, he didn't add any additional ornaments to them. Besides, Wang Chong didn't intend to sell them. As such, he has been keeping them in the residence all along. Beneath the frosty moonlight, Wang Chong could clearly see the nimble movements of the black figures from the roofs, on the ground, and by the walls, as they rushed straight toward the treasure vault of the residence. They seemed to be well aware of the layout of the residence. They must have been spying during the day. Wang Chong thought. Every single residence has their own treasure vault which stores gold, silver, and important treasures. The people who sneaked into the Wang clan seemed to have clear goals. Their movements precise and exact. Clearly, they had scouted the compounds of the Wang family residence during the day, giving them a clear idea of the layout and the structure of the residence. The entire Wang family residence was silent, as if the place where the black-clothed men entered was an abandoned mansion. Not a single maid, guard, or nanny was alarmed by their presence. Standing in the darkness, Wang Chong sneered coldly as he silently gazed at them. Even though there was a strict restriction on the size of a private army that a general or minister household could have, there was more than sufficient people within the residence to deal with them. It's about time. Just as they were about to reach the treasure vault of the Wang family residence, a gleam flashed across Wang Chong's eyes as a thought appeared in his mind. Roar! Everything happened so quickly. Just as the group was about to enter the treasure vault, a furious roar broke the silence of the night. As though the rumbling of thunder, the bellow echoed in the skies of the entire Wang family residence. Who is it? Along with that roar, the air in the surroundings trembled, and black-colored ripples from a powerful explosion burst out from the Wang family residence's treasure vault. The group of black-clothed men was caught off guard. As though a kite snipped at the strings, they flew backward. Who dares to cause trouble on Wang Gongzi's residence? Amidst the lion-like roar, Two lean but powerful figures rushed out. These words weren't spoken through the language of the Central Plains, but in Sanskrit. However, it was a pity that no one understood their words. "They're finally out." Seeing Arloja and Ablonidon rushing out, Wang Chong chuckled. This was what you called a true partnership. Wang Chong didn't spend the 80,000 gold taels yesterday for nothing. Wang Chong expressed his intentions of wanting the duo to help protect the Wang family residence so as to prevent the Hyderabad ores and the few 100,000 gold taels from being stolen. Without a single word of complaint, the duo immediately agreed. At this moment, Wang Chong was a collaborator of Sindhu. How could they allow someone to steal the money earned from the sales of the ore? Without any additional persuasion from Wang Chong's part, the duo immediately took up the responsibility. Boom! From afar, Arloja and Ablonidon looked like ferocious tigers. Rushing into the group of black-clothed men, they destroyed everything that was within their reach. Even though they were severely outnumbered, they managed to ward off all of the enemy's attacks. The billowing black waves they exuded sent these black-clothed men flying away as though sheets of paper, smashing them into the walls or the ground. "Come out! There's an attack!" At the same time, the voice of the two Sindhi monks alarmed the guards of the Wang clan. From Wang Chong's mother's living quarters, the lounge, and the quarters where the maids, nannies, and servants lived, countless guards of the Wang family residence charged out. Preparedness ensures success and unpreparedness spells failure. Since Wang Chong expected that someone would make an attempt on the 600,000 gold taels, the Wood steel sword, and the Hyderabad ores, how could he possibly not make any preparations in advance? From his mother's room to the quarters of the maids, Wang Chong has assigned guards to all important locations. If not, how could Wang Chong be so relaxed as to sit idly by the side and watch as intruders invaded his residence? Kill them! The group of Wang family's guards charged across the corridors toward the black-clothed men. The swords in their eyes gleamed beneath the moonlight. In just a moment, the two groups immediately clashed together in the garden. The guards of the Wang clan numbered one of the least among the generals' and ministers' households. Even so, they still outnumbered the black-clothed men by several times. Ding ding, the sound of metal resounded by the ears. The cold gleam of metal could be seen all around the courtyard. Someone is rushing toward me? Suddenly, Wang Chong's ear twitched. He heard the movement of cloth once more, and it seemed like the treasure vault wasn't their only goal. Even Wang Chong's study was one of their targets. Show! Everything happened faster than words could describe. Just when Wang Chong realized that someone was headed toward him, the cold flash of metal gleamed in the darkness and several machetes spun furiously toward Wang Chong. "Young master, be careful." Upon seeing that sight, Shin Hai and Meng Long, who was guarding Wang Chong's study, went pale and swiftly charged forward. Wang! Clang! Meng Long's sword deflected one of the Carrick's Spas Inu machetes, creating the resounding reverberation of metal. Even so, there were still a few other machetes which were flying straight toward Wang Chong at an incredible speed. Not good. In a moment, these machetes appeared right before Wang Chong. The sharp blades seemed as though they would split Wang Chong's head from his neck. The faces of the duo paled, and cold sweat trickled down their back. Wang! Even though Wang Chong's cultivation was lacking, his reaction wasn't slow at all. At that very instant when the machetes were right before him, Wang Chong's body flew backward into the air, doing a backflip. With just a simple basking of the tortoise, he dodged the consecutive strikes. The ease and simplicity of the movement left the two masked Carrick's Spazinu assassins stunned. In their view, Wang Chong's martial arts was weak to the point that it was negligible. They could have never imagined that Wang Chong could use such a simple movement to dodge their sure-kill attack so easily.